Hi guys, my name is David and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be reviewing a book that is very special to me. And the reason why this book is special is because this book was the first ever book that I did a buddy read with a fellow booktuber. And that book being The Fellowship of the Ring by JRR Tolkien, which is book 1 or arguably book 2 in his Lord of the Rings series or trilogy. That booktuber is called Kayla. She currently changed her channel name to I think something like Books in the Dark. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I'll have it up on the screen somewhere. And I read this for a second time with Marissa Bailey. This was the first time that she read these books. She said that she watched the movies like once about 10 years ago, but she couldn't really remember much about it, and she has never obviously read the books before. I have read The Hobbit many times, and I've read the whole of the Lord of the Rings once before, and also I've watched the movies numerous times. I've got the extended versions in my room, so I'm very familiar about the whole Lord of the Rings story. But with Marissa, it was more of a grey area for her, really, to be honest. So before I tell you what the story is all about, kind of spoiler free, but it's going to be more of a casual laid-back discussion rather than a full-blown video review. So before we get started, let's just go straight over to Marissa now, where she'll be telling you what she thought about this book.
Hello, David, and everyone at David's channel. It's Marissa here from the Marissa Bailey BookTube channel. So, I just want to start off by saying I am not super familiar with The Lord of the Rings. I have seen the movies when I was a lot younger, but I only watched them about once. Other than that, I haven't read any of the books. The only book that I've read that kind of has something to do with it would be The Hobbit, and I read that in middle school, so barely remember any of that. So I kind of went into this blindly, but I will say I was pleasantly surprised. I don't read a lot of fantasy novels, so this was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I will say that the book wasn't really boring at all, and I don't know if this helps, but I actually checked out the audiobook version from my local library, and in that one, there was like music and different special effects noises and stuff like that. So it did make it really entertaining for me. And yeah, it was really great to kind of go back and forth and talk about the novel with David because I know he's a lot more versed in the series and everything. So it was really interesting to see his point of views. And yeah, I'm really excited to read the other books as well and kind of keep the story going. I think my favorite part about the story is that it was kind of like a fate situation where, Frodo didn't really want to have this like burden on him with carrying the ring and going through with this journey, but he still was able to do it and had help along the way. It was just it was just really interesting to see the whole journey unfold, and it really reminded me of Joseph Campbell's The Power of Myth, where he talks about the hero's journey and how that can relate to like real world situations. So, yeah, I'm really glad that I got to read the first book and I can't wait to read the other ones.
Thank you, Marissa, and I will have Marissa's video down below, and in her video there's going to be a clip from me discussing about what I thought was different between the book and the movie and the comparisons between the two. So as I said, this is going to be my own thoughts and feelings regarding the Fellowship of the Ring and Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. And this is going to be kind of a spoiler-free video. I'm not going to give away any major plot points, but I am going to discuss the story because I'm pretty sure this was published in the 50s. And also, guys, I know that there are a lot of die-hard Tolkien fans out there that specifically dive into the lore and the mythology and the language and the culture of all these races. I'm not going to do that here, but yeah, I'm just going to tell you what I thought about the book. So this is a fantastic fantasy story. Tolkien is basically the grandfather of epic fantasy. What Tolkien did with Lord of the Rings is he just didn't create a whole world and characters that were different species. He created a whole world, you know what I mean? He thought about it. He thought about all these different races, you know, like men, elves, dwarves, hobbits, orcs. And he thought about the history about each of these different species. He gave them different cultures. He gave them history. He gave them lore. He gave them, a flavour of their own. He gave them like songs that were specifically for them. He gave them languages. He really thought about this, and I strongly believe that he did this even before he wrote The Hobbit. So the story of this book is that it picks up right from where The Hobbit left off. It sees Bilbo Baggins as he gives Frodo, who is his cousin, I think he is. No, not his cousin, his nephew, or he's related to Frodo. He's actually related to Frodo in some way. But Frodo is given the ring, and he has to basically go on a quest to destroy it in Mount Doom. He knows that this ring is dangerous. It came from this Dark Lord, and basically if the Dark Lord gets his ring back, then all hell will break loose, and you don't want that to happen. Along the way, we come across elves and dwarves and men that help Frodo out. To discuss this book in a video, I cannot do it justice. I'm not even doing it justice now. Frodo is currently living in the Shire, and when he finds out that this ring is evil, he basically knows that he cannot, do anything else with it apart from destroy it. And this ring, every single time that this ring is around someone, it infects their minds. It gives them the ability to turn invisible whenever they put it on. It can corrupt their minds. And the ring, even though it doesn't talk or anything like that, it's just an object. It's just an object. It is a character all by itself. It wants to be found. It wants to get back to its master. And it uses all the people that it comes into contact with in order to get to the, on his master's hands, We find out that Gandalf, the wizard who was in The Hobbit, is back, and he helps Frodo and the Fellowship out. And also there are a lot of hobbits that go on this quest with Frodo, such as Sam and Merry and Pippin. In the movie, Merry and Pippin are kind of always together. You cannot see one without the other. But these, they are, I think that they are friends, but they are really always together. Pippin is more the, like, let's dive in head first and see what happens kind of person. And I think Merry is the kind of motherly, cautious type. And Gandalf has been going along, trying to help him out. And we find Gollum is back as well. This creature, or this character that was once like a hobbit, but was corrupted by the ring and morphed and changed. And it even discusses about how he became Gollum, how he became from Smeagol, which was his real identity, and his true identity, to Gollum. And it's a really tragic story about how he was outcast. He was like shunned by his family and his town, and how he was given the name of Gollum. We find out that there's this character as well that the hobbits come across, called Tom Bombadil, who wasn't in the movie. Tom is kind of like Radagast. He is one with nature, and he comes across them and he helps them out. He looks at the ring and he even laughs at it, which I mentioned in my previous video, first time going through this book. And it takes this story a while to get going, but when it does, it really does. But there are some battles in this book as well with the orcs. But this book is a more slow-paced book. It's a journey that they have to take from the Shire to ultimately Mordor, or Mount Doom, which is in Mordor, to destroy the ring. That's basically the journey for Frodo. Even though Frodo is with this massive group of people, I think he knows that he has to do this by himself, or he prefers to do it by himself, but we have loads of stubborn characters that want to like put their foot down and bow down and say, no, you aren't in this alone, you are with us. And whether you like it or not, we are going to help you out. But as I said, you cannot really do a video on Lord of the Rings and do it justice. It's one of them ones which, if you are interested in fantasy, or if you're trying to get into fantasy, or if you're a fan of fantasy currently, and you haven't read Lord of the Rings, then I would recommend you do so, because this is fantastic. The writing style is kind of easy to read, but because it has loads of made up, words for locations and characters, it can get a bit complicated as well. It does have small sections which are in Dwarvish or Elvish, and obviously you cannot read them unless you listen to the audio version. But I really had a lot of fun reading this, and it was a interesting experience to get Marissa's point of view, because she was saying, oh, I don't trust this person, or I wonder what's going to happen here. And I'm like, well, I know what's going to happen because I've read these books before, and also I have watched the movies. Obviously, the book and the movie are totally different. There is a lot more in this than you will ever get in the movie, and I do mean the extended versions. But what did I think about this the second time round? There wasn't a lot in this that I missed the first time round. It was very pleasant to get back into this whole world and to read this again, and it was something that I was very familiar with, and it's a comforting read, and I cannot wait to get into book 2. We are planning to read it in March, so yeah, cannot wait to get into that. I did find out one thing as well, that this, at the start of it, this does touch on Ents, which are these massive tree creatures that are mentioned in book 2. It isn't very in your face, it's very subtle, so you do have to look out for it. But if you are reading this for the first time, then you won't really know what an Ent is unless you've watched the movie and you remember what happened in the movie. I really enjoyed the Fellowship of the Ring, and yeah, I mean, if I was going to rate it, I'm probably going to rate it a 5 stars. I mean, it's a real comforting book for me. Is it perfect? No, it isn't, but it's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason. So guys, that has been my kind of discussion, kind of review for the Fellowship of the Ring. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. Let me know if you have read the book. Let me know if you've watched the movie. What did you think about them? Are you planning to read the book? I know a lot of people are put off by Lord of the Rings as it's a massive thing, but you really shouldn't be put off by it. So guys, that's been my video. Once again, please do not forget to check out Marissa's video. I'll have it linked down below. So yeah, with all that out of the way, I'll see you in my next one.